Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. Now that I'm back from Anaheim, California, and all catching up and stuff like that, I have a couple FutureFights to deliver to you guys. So today we're going to be covering the FutureFights for V-EB06 Kagero and V-EB06 Link Joker, which is the Brant deck, and the Kagero deck is Overlord deck as usual. So you know, we're gonna get right into the Kagero deck here. I think that it's a very consistent deck. I will say at the very least it is a very consistent deck. I don't like, or I've never liked what Kagero has had to offer in the form of rear guards in standard. I think that the rear guards are just way too weak for them to be paired with, you know, the Vanguards that they have. However, this set we got Dragonic Neoflame, so kind of encourages you to at least put one force marker on the rear guard circle so that Neoflame can be swinging for huge when it restands, because this new Overlord that we got, Dragonic Overlord the Great, not only stands itself but stands your rear guard Dragonic Neoflame as well. So it ends up being highly pressured to your opponent, and that's your win con. That's how you try to win the game. So before we get started here, make sure to subscribe down below, click the bell button so that you don't have to miss any of our future uploads. Be sure to check out our social medias. There is a Facebook page for Cardfight Empire where I post every time there's a new video. You guys will get little updates here and there from me via the Facebook as well, because that's where I like to put my updates. Check out the Patreon if you guys are interested in Cardfight Empire exclusive content. All the details to that is on the Patreon link down below in the description. It includes like my deck profiles from recent tournaments and stuff like that, as well as my strategies and stuff going forward, and any questions that you might have. Also, shout out to our sponsor, Dabbers Cards and Games, a local card shop in Georgia. They have a lot of the greatest and latest card merchandise that you can get. Some of it from Japan, for multiple games: Cardfight, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and Pokemon, and other games beyond that. So be sure to check them out if you're in Georgia, and if you're not, be sure to check them out down at their link in the description down below as well. But with that being said, let's get right into the deck today. So obviously there's no G-Zone because, standard. But getting into the main deck, we have 4 of our new ace card, Dragonic Overlord Zahagreto. So basically it has Dragonic Overlord the Great, has 2 abilities. The first ability is when placed on Vanguard circle, choose up to 1 Dragonic Neoflame from your drop zone and call it to rear guard circle. So this is actually a very underrated skill and very, very good skill, because it also allows you to like play your Neoflames in the early game without worrying about them getting blown up or attacked into, and then you can just call it back whenever you ride this card. So it makes it really, really swole. Also, this is one of those cards where you don't want to ride it first ever, because its real skill comes into play when you have a grade 3 in your soul, and there's no other way to get a grade 3 into your soul other than riding over top of one. So you definitely want to ride Dragonic Overlord the Great second. So also we have Force in this clan. When this set comes out, we won't have access to Force 1 and Force 2, so I'm not going to talk about that, but you will only have Force 1 when this deck comes out, I believe, still, unless I'm mistaken. But I would just use Force 1 with this deck anyways, because it has to do with restanders, and power seems a little bit greater than crits, because you can force your opponent into a spot where they can no longer guard after a while. The secondary ability of Dragonic Overlord the Great is when it's on the Vanguard circle at the end of the battle that it attacked. So notice that it just says attacked and not attacked to Vanguard, so you can attack a rear guard if you choose to. So at the end of the battle that it attacked, if you have a grade 3 in your soul, you can counterboss 1 and discard 2 cards from your hand. You get to stand this unit and stand one of your Dragonic Neoflame rear guards, and they get -1 drive until the end of the turn. So it doesn't really matter that Neoflame gets -1 drive, because it doesn't drive check anyways. It does matter that your Vanguard gets -1 drive, because you're discarding 2 to restand and attack with 1 drive check, similar to our original Dragonic Overlord. So speaking of original Dragonic Overlord, this is your first ride in the deck. We do run 4 Dragonic Overlords just for the consistency of having cards like, you know, Dragon Full Armor Buster and stuff like that. It's really just for that card, but you can run the other builds that run like, you know, waterfall in them and all that stuff, but I'm just not running that because you can finish off your opponent just fine running this variant of it as well. So Dragonic Overlord's 2 abilities. The first one is an Vanguard or Rearguard Circle skill once per turn. Soul Blast 1, during your main phase you can just Soul Blast 1 and this unit gets plus 10,000 power. So really good when you ride it because you can just Soul Blast to effectively equal a force. Even though I usually put my force on Vanguard Circle anyways, it makes your Overlord super big and threatening, and if you ride first, then your opponent has to deal with a 33k Overlord that they're either going to block or it's going to hit and restand, and maybe with the crit, maybe depending on what kind of triggers you checked, and they put them in a very unfavorable position. The secondary skill is when it's on the Vanguard Circle once per turn. When its attack hits, you can counterboss 1, discard 2 cards, stand this unit, and -1 drive until the end of the turn. So you can easily see how Dragonic Overlord the Great is an upgrade from Dragonic Overlord. First of all, the Great doesn't have to hit. Dragonic Overlord does. And then you pay the same cost. You counterboss 1, discard 2, and then they both get 1 drive check after that. But then also the Great stands a Neo Flame, so you're able to just attack with your rearguard column, attack with your rearguard column, attack with your Vanguard column, and then restand Neo Flame and then attack with your Vanguard column, and then attack with your Neo Flame for a total of 5 attacks. Whereas normally you would just get 4 attacks, assuming that Dragonic Overlord goes off. So very good. Moving on to our grade 2s, we have 4 of the new grade 2 Dragon Full Armored Buster. This card makes your ride chain, it's not really a ride chain, but makes your ride up to 3 very consistent. Along with this card and Berserk Dragon and Segbold Dragonute, like it just provides the consistency and draw power that you need to be able to get up properly to where you want to be. So it has a Vanguard Rearguard Circle that says if your opponent has no rearguards, then this unit gets plus 3,000 power. Something very important about this skill is, like, obviously during your turn, like, you blow up your opponent's rearguards and it gets 13k, but this is also during your opponent's turn. So if your opponent decides to ride to grade 2 and not call another card and then swing at your Vanguard, they're like, they can't just play like ride Blaster Blade, for example, in Royal Paladins and swing at your Vanguard and not check a trigger. If they don't check a trigger, then they won't hit because they don't have any rearguards. Obviously, this is easily negated by just playing 1 rearguard, at least 1 rearguard. So not that impactful of a skill, but impactful enough to make a difference. We really want to run this card though for the second skill, which is Vanguard Rearguard. When placed, you can Soul Blast 2, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire it, and then you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Overlord card, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So it effectively has the same skill as the Destiny. If you guys know of that card for Premium, if you play Premium, you know what Dragonic Overlord the Destiny is, but this is a really good Overlord grade 3 that is basically your Overlord engine for searching out your Overlord cards. So this is the same exact thing, except it's Soul Blast 2 instead of Counterboss 1, and then you get to retire one of your opponent's rearguards and search top 7 just like the Destiny does. So really good when you ride this on grade 2. You pop one of their cards, you search top 7, beautiful. Also, it's Vanguard Rearguard, so you can also like ride Berserk Dragon for its draw, and then you can use or I guess you can't use full armored Buster because it requires 2 souls. So if you're doing this on grade 2 turn, you will only have 2 souls. So just be aware of how much soul you're using and all that good jazz. Then we have 4 Berserk Dragon. Berserk Dragon is pretty much our backup ride when we don't get Dragon Full Armor Buster. So Berserk Dragon always been a good card, a good staple in the standard deck. So its Vanguard Rearguard ability is when it's placed, Counterboss 1 and Soul Boss 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. And then if this card is on Vanguard Circle, then you can draw a card. So easily you can just draw a card even if your opponent doesn't have any rearguards. You can still pay the cost to draw a card, so really good. Then its rearguard ability is when it attacks a Vanguard. If the number of our rearguards are greater than our opponent's, then it gets plus 3,000 power. So it's able to hit Force by itself as long as we have more rearguards than them. Very good, because Force is the highest threat that we are worried about as far as base power. Then obviously we have 4 Dragonic Neo Flame. We run it because we run for the Great. So for Neo Flame, we want to see it as early as possible. There's not a way to search it out, so we do want to have it in the early game, and we definitely want to have it by the time that we get to the Great. So yeah. And then its skill is when your Dragonic Overlord the Great attacks until the end of the battle, it gets 5,000 power, and then you can counterboss 2, and that unit gets +1 critical until the end of the battle as well. So Obviously, it's not till the end of the turn, which would be really, really good, but it is till the end of the battle, so if you need to like put some extra pressure on your opponent and you have the open counter boss to do it, you can. However, I think that counter boss 2 is a little bit too heavy for this skill, so I end up almost never using it. But you do get the 5,000 for free, just because of Neoflame existing on the board. So if you have 2 Neoflames, it does stack, and your Vanguard will be, you know, 23 by itself outside of force markers and anything else going on. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 4 Sable Dragonute. Sable Dragonute's effect. First of all, I should mention that this card is really, really, really good as an addition to Kagero Standard, because it allows you to do what Narukami basically did, but in a Force Clan, which is really good, where you can ride a grade 1, you attack your opponent. Most likely they want the damage for something, like in Great Nature they want it for Binoculus Tiger on turn 2. In OTT, they want it for Circle Magus. You know, there's a bunch of times where you'll ride a grade 1 and your opponent will just let this hit for free without you even playing a booster. So it's really, really good. Also, if you play an Airmo behind it, it makes 19k columns, so like your opponent most likely won't guard that. But Sable Dragonute's Vanguard effect is when it hits, you can draw a card, which is absolutely amazing. Obviously, like I said, gets you into the rest of your pieces, digs you deeper into your deck faster, so that you can start digging for those Neoflames, those Overlords, and the Great. And then also, when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, you can retire this unit and draw a card. So same thing as Airmo, except Airmo retires, draws, and counter charges. This card just retires and draws. So very good. Then we have 4 Embodiment of Armor Bar. We sparingly use this card, but I think it is still a good grade 1 to have in your slot, just in case you need to blow up something pesky during a certain period of time. But when this card is placed, you can Soul Boss 1, Counter Boss 1, and then choose one of your grade 2 or less rear guards in the same column, retire it, and then if the number of your rear guards is greater than your opponent's, and then this card gets plus 5,000 power. So it can become a 13k base by itself, 13k booster or attacker, so very solid card bar. Then we have 4 Flame of Hope Airmo, just like in the original build. It has 2 rearguard abilities. The first one is a continuous that says during the battle that it boosted, this unit gets plus 3,000 power. So anytime this Airmo boosts, it becomes 11k, so it is an 11k booster, really good. And then the other rearguard ability is when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, you can retire this unit, draw a card, and countercharge 1. So really just helps you like with your resources, and also helps you with your boosting and stuff like that. Then we have a one-of spot of Lizard Soldier Ralpia. Ralpia has a Vanguard rearguard skill that says during your opponent, or sorry, when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So you can, if you use a bunch of retire effects, like this card will just keep stacking power. So it's really, really good like that. Then moving on to our grade 0s, we have 1 Lizard Runner Undux, which obviously you guys know is our draw starter, hasn't changed. Then we have 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. Obviously 4 of our Sentinel Trigger, Wavering Guard Bari, 8 of the only crits that you can run for now, and then 4 of our Dragon Monk Genjo, which is the only heal that you can run for now as well. Going back out so that we can get right into the games, we're loading up Kagero 1 here. We're actually playing against OTT, so this comes in handy because I was just talking about this with Sable Dragonute. So our opponent actually goes first, which is preferred in this deck because we ride, we attack. Our opponent takes it, we draw a card, so we do into an Airmo. Our opponent rides into Promise Daughter, we take the crit. We ride full armor. We get a grade 3 off of it, which is really good because we didn't have a grade 3 before that point. We do check into a Neoflame, so we have like all 4 of our Neoflames that we've seen already. So really, really good for when we finally do get the great later on as planned. So then our opponent uses Rectangle, uses a card to put a crit on top, and then he just starts going ham on our board. So he does check a crit and a draw, so unfortunately we check a great, but we ride we ride Dragonic Overlord. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Then we attack the rear guard so that we can get Airmo off, and we had used Airmo as well. But he re-rode, and we 2'd past him, and then we double intercepted with Neoflames because we knew that we were going to call it the next turn. So we attack his Vanguard for 13, he takes it, we attack with 20, we attack for 36 to his Vanguard, he PGs, we get a draw trigger, we stand, and then we counterboss 2 for the 2 crit, 1 drive, And then our opponent guards, and then the PGs are Neoflame. Our opponent re-rides Imperial Daughter using the skill of Deer. And Deer ends up putting no triggers on top, so that's really, really good for us. And then our opponent attacks with Vanguard. We no-guard it because our only chance was to pretty much check a heal trigger. But we didn't do that because we just couldn't guard every single column. But if we did check a heal trigger, we would have been able to PG one of these columns and guard the other one, and then go into the next turn where we're using the Great again. So yeah, there was game one. We lost to OTT. Obviously, like, you're still a Force deck, so you still do have kind of a bad matchup against Protect, especially OTT. So we're playing against the Kagero mirror match this time. We do chop top 7 for the Great. And then we attack with Neoflame. He attacks our Neoflame, which is fine. We ride, and we just move our grade 1 up. He does check a trigger, but we do restand to get the extra damage in. We no-guard his Overlord in turn. He does the same thing, but he checks a heal, which is automatically better than our turn. And then we go into the Great. We check a crit. We restand both, and then he PGs us, and we attack. He damage checks a crit. So for some reason, he rerode original Dragonic Overlord instead of the Great. Maybe because he didn't have a Neoflame, but we just reride the Great again. Call. We use bar skill. We don't use bar skill actually because we needed to have a grade 3 in our soul. So we do check a draw trigger, putting the power to rearguard Neoflame, and yeah, that ends up being the game. What I do wish is that, like, it just restood all your Neoflames, so if you have 2, then you're actually rewarded for that. But maybe that would be too good. Who knows? But we ended up winning that Kagero mirror match. And then game 3, we're playing against the Kagero mirror match again. We go first this time. So our opponent rides Gaius. Thank goodness he didn't ride Dragonute. We do check top 7. So you guys see how consistent, like, full armor Dragon Buster is. Like, every single game we've gotten it off. But we ride Dragonic Overlord. We check a crit. Our opponent checks a draw. We restand so that we can give him that pressure. He has to use the PG. And then he attacks us, gets a heal trigger, which I don't know, every Kagero mirror match that I play, like, that always happens. So I don't know why, but yeah, we go into the Great. We play our Neoflame. We attack. We check double Neoflame. We use the skill. We do check a heal as well, so we go up, and then we attack for 20. He rides into Waterfall, and Waterfall attacks us for 51, to which we guard for a 2 to pass. He doesn't get it, and he all Vanguards. We put a draw trigger to our Vanguard, and we end up attacking with our Vanguard. He no guards, and then we use the skill to restand, crit to rear guard Neoflame, and that ends up clinching us the game. Something I did want you guys to notice is that I had an Airmo and a Sable Dragonute, and when I retired by attacking into his rear guard, I actually retired both so that I could draw 2 cards. So that ended up being very, very useful. But that has been the Future Fight for Kagero. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up on the video. Comment down below letting me know what you thought of the build or what your thoughts are for Kagero going into this very next set, V-EB06. And be sure to support the Patreon if you guys want to support the channel a little bit more. Check all that stuff out down in the description, and check out Dabbers as well. But with that being said, this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace, guys.